why not? Let's do something totally crazy. I talk about thriving in chaos, and I want to walk my talk, and let's just do it. Let's see what actually committing 27 months of service really feels like, and being really uncomfortable. And
Corinne Hancock doesn't just talk about thriving in chaos. She lives it. She sold everything, walked away from her comfortable life, and leaned it fully into uncertainty. In this episode, we're going to dig into what led her there and what she's learned from working in international conflict zones, and how she helps teams and leaders build resilience, not just buzzwords. We're going to talk about family, failure, reinvention, and the kind of leadership that only shows up when things fall apart. You're going to want to dig into this one.
I've been hearing a lot lately about the knock. When an employee knocks on your office door and says, "Got a minute?" and you immediately know it's some sort of IT incident. But Oxium IT can help. Whether you're having a problem, need consulting, an upgrade, or a managed IT approach, they focus on preventing cyber attacks and proactive solutions that deliver results. My friend Matt Loria and everyone at Oxium are ready to help before or after you get the knock. Visit Oxium.com and let Oxium IT help you outsmart chaos.
Welcome to the BLTnT Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Loria, serving up real stories of business, life, technology, and transformations. You'll hear from interesting people about big changes, from career shifts to life-altering decisions, and the innovations that help make it all happen. It's about sharing those light bulb moments, pivot points, challenges overcome, and the journeys that inspire us to think differently. If you're on the lookout for insights to propel you forward, stories that resonate, or just a bit of inspiration on your next BLTnT move, you're in the right place. Let's dig in. Okay, welcome to another episode of the BLTnT Podcast. I'm Matt Loria, and I'm here with my friend Corinne Hancock, fondly known as Chaos Corinne, and now known as Neilau.
yeah. Hi, Matt. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. It's been a nice chance to get to reconnect with you after you made the big trek across the sea.
Yes. I feel very honored.
You took a plane, though, right? You didn't take a boat.
I did take a plane. I definitely don't take them anymore. But yes, I don't even know what they're like anymore, actually.
But you didn't take a boat, is what I'm saying.
No boat this time.
Yeah, you took a plane, so that's good.
Yes.
Some background here, Corinne. You've gone from being a TEDx speaker, international consultant, to now you are a grassroots economic developer in Enana, yeah, well done. Enana, Namibia, in Africa. And you and I met about a year ago. You were a consultant. You were an expert speaker at an event that I was at that I really felt like you did a great job teaching us how to thrive in chaos. And so I'm glad you're here joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so fun. It's bizarre to be doing a virtual conversation from my little humble abode here in Namibia, and with the time change and power outage issues. I think it's fun. I'm using a solar light as some try to do some lighting here. It's all very different now.
So if we have to pause, it's because you have to crank the solar light to generate some more power, right?
Yeah, I'm riding a bicycle underneath as we talk.
That's what's powering the computer and the internet there.
Yes.
So let's explain this. So you were a normal person, like up until about 12 months ago or so. At least when I met you, you were somebody that was living a similar life to the majority of the people that are probably watching or listening to the podcast, right? You were a corporate person, talking to corporate people, being a mom, being a wife,
yep.
Having people over for drinks and stuff like that. Am I correct?
Like wearing clean clothes, taking hot showers. I think it's funny, Matt, coming from you, claiming I was a normal person, but, also it's all good. But yes, I feel like I was on a plane, very similar to all of you, on the plane almost every week, traveling from city to city, working with companies around the country, and being so busy. I mean, just where every day you live by your calendar, you can't miss. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening, including the workout or anything. And now my life has completely shifted from that. There's no more Starbucks. I mean, I live in a town that doesn't even have a coffee shop or a restaurant or any, only one tarred road. So yeah, I don't even have a car. I'm not allowed to drive. I walk everywhere. So, the trek to my office to walk to work every day is the same distance that I used to walk from the parking lot at the airport to the terminal.
Wow. Well, and let's
Yeah.
explain this, because some people might think you got deported. I don't think everybody has context as to why you're in Africa. So you and your husband basically packed up and joined the Peace Corps, and obviously you did it with some forethought and some planning, but you really went from living a normal life here in America to now you live in Africa in the Peace Corps.
Yeah, and we sold everything. And the Peace Corps is a bizarre thing for those of people who aren't familiar with the Peace Corps. It was a program started in the 60s by Kennedy, and it was really to create, friendship and peace across the world through mostly education volunteers. And now it's really expanded over all these years, but it's mostly young people who join the Peace Corps right after university, right after college. They go and it's a very rigorous application process, and you commit 27 months of your life of service. So we don't get paid. You're getting small stipends to survive, but for my husband and I in our 40s, it's a very bizarre experience because most of the people in our cohort, like I said, they're either very young, like the same age as my children almost, or they're very much older. They've retired. They've already lived their lives. They're in their late 60s or 70s. And so no one in their 40s really does this, because why would you? Like, our lives were going great. They were amazing. We were both at kind of the height of our career. And I don't know, my youngest son graduated high school and the older one was in college. And we just said, why not? Let's do something totally crazy. I talk about thriving in chaos, and I want to walk my talk, and let's just do it. Let's see what actually committing 27 months of service really feels like, and being really uncomfortable. And can you do it? Can you let it all go? We sold our house, we sold our cars, we put everything that was deemed important in a 10 by 10 storage unit. That was all we were allowed to, we allowed ourselves to keep. And it was a huge shock to the whole family, to all of our friends. It still is to ourselves every day, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean, you're really doing it. I mean, you jumped in and did it. I mean, we brag at Oxium that we're a dog food organization because we use the products that we sell.
Yes.
We use our own services that we provide, and so that feels like nothing in comparison to you eating the dog food of jumping in and doing it and really fully committing your lives to this. So I commend you for it. And it shocks me, right? Because, when I look at you and your husband, you do look normal, right? So this doesn't look like somebody who had just, some mental disturbance who made this decision.
Right.
You did it thoughtfully. You did it intentionally. That's a word that you use often, is doing things intentionally. And so, wow. I think everybody watching this is going to think, what the hell did I do today? Because you're really doing it. So good job.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that, but it's so funny because, like I said, to other people in the outside world and all of my colleagues and people I've spoken for in companies, everyone just is like, wow, that's amazing that you would commit to doing service at that level. And it was funny that internally in our families, especially our parents, were sort of upset, like, what are you doing? Why would you sort of throw everything away? It seemed like, especially to my dad. And, like I said, I had just won Speaker of the Year for Vistage. Like my career is just exploding. My husband is a military consultant, contractor, travels all over the world, training special operation teams. He was training SWAT teams down in New Mexico for suicide bombers and like cool stuff, right? Like everything was so amazing. I felt so fancy. I always got upgraded now in first class because my status was so great. And, room upgrades at the Marriott, you get the nice car at the National now, like everything, like I had finally like achieved all those statuses, and to be just thrown back at just, I mean, it's been the most humbling experience because no one cares about anything like that here. It doesn't exist. It's just, I mean, like I said, I'm happy if I have water or electricity in my house now. I mean, we're happy to have a pretty decent house, I guess now. I don't know how to compare anything anymore. I mean, I've been here,
Yeah.
It'll be a year in August that we've been here. So we still have a really long way to go, and that is daunting sometimes.
Yeah. What do you know what the why was? Why did you decide to do this, and why did you also burn the boats? So heavily, meaning like
Yes.
down to that 10. Making some rules, right? Going down to that 10 by 10 storage unit, saying this is all we're going to keep is what fits in this box. We're going all in. Why did you walk away? Was there a need inside of you that said, "Hey, I need to serve," or was there a calling, or what was it?
I think that I've always, I worked in the nonprofit sector before I started into the corporate world. I really like making money, and so that was, it was very. The why was such a deep internal personal journey that I knew that I was being sort of drawn to work on the being more than the doing, because I could do all that. I was good at doing. I was really, really good at it. And I just had always said that when my youngest son graduated high school, I mean, if I'm really honest, it was the burning of the boats had a lot to do with sort of creating a forced launch for my children as well, like showing that you guys have to kind of do your life. I'm always here to support you and be there for you, but I wanted to make it challenging. Like I walk my talk in every aspect, and so it's really like I can't talk about all these things I used to do. And, I felt like I was running out of inspiration, not really for my clients, but for myself. Like I needed to dig deeper. It wasn't very hard anymore. And I wanted to do something really hard. And my husband and I really thought, why would, we could go and do, maybe we always wanted to live in Africa again. We met in Africa, actually, as a couple. So we were both working on different contracts, and we met actually in Central African Republic, which is a crazy place. And so we had always had the dream to return to Africa, and we had always both worked in Africa separately, but never together. And so we thought, well, that would be really cool. But we thought maybe it would be doing stuff like he was doing, military contract stuff. And then we just had a crazy idea that said, no, let's serve. Like, what would it feel like to serve? Like trade in the War Corps for the Peace Corps, essentially.
Wow. What did it feel like at first when you first got there? And
I think at first it's really exciting, right? Because you feel everything's so new. We had to learn a new language. So you're actually served when you go into the Peace Corps. We have to spend 3 months of actual pre-service training. So they put you with a host family. That was the most challenging, living with a family with a bunch of small children. I mean, there was probably 5, sometimes 7 children in this house that we were living in. And they do that to really force you to, engulf into the culture, learn the language. So the language that we were assigned to was a language called Oshiquinyama. and I couldn't even say the language when it was first assigned to us. And learning Oshikwanyama has been really challenging, but it's a fun experience at first because everything's new. It's kind of exciting. And then you move to sight and you're like, oh my God, this is actually my life for the next 2 years. You're in your house that you didn't choose. You're in a location you didn't choose. You're in a job you didn't choose. And now I'm sort of like a low-level government employee, like as I work for a town council, which means I sort of help town planning and economic development in the town that I live in. So I'm in this really weird structured job. So it's a roller coaster. You go from feeling really excited to like, oh my gosh, did I just ruin my life? Was this a mistake? But then you kind of keep coming up, but never did I feel like I made a mistake. But there's really tough days. There's very tough days, but I still don't feel like it was a mistake. I don't miss my life as it was.
You've studied a bit of psychology in your time. Is there a psychological phenomenon that talks about that? With regard to change, is there something that you've read about that, or like a like I said, a phenomenon that you can tie that to, or
honestly, it's
personal
like
growth, personal growth curve.
Yeah, but this one is more, you're kind of following a little bit of grief. You're kind of following through the steps of grief, because my life and myself it's the death of my life and myself. And so you go through a lot of those stages of grief, of denial, of, sort of anger, to then, moving into acceptance. But then sometimes things happen, or you talk to someone at home, or, you don't have water for 3 days, and then you're back in kind of anger and disappointment. And so it's more because it's the death of your life as you once knew it. And the hardest part is that what I know deep in my heart is it can never, ever, ever be the same. How could I ever feel or respond to life in the same way after having this experience? I mean, I just don't know.
Like if you were to come back to the United States and be in a long line in Starbucks and be able to complain, like you can't undo what you've experienced.
Yeah, you can't, because you can, like I always say in my keynotes too, right? Like awareness can never be taken away. And once you experience this level of humanity, of experience of in suffering, of just true survival, like living in a community where people are not thriving and they're in that lowest level of survival every day. And so it's so hard as working in economic empowerment and trying to help people start businesses that are so stuck in survival mode that you can't forecast to the future whatsoever. It's just like what happens tomorrow. And so even for myself, it's hard for me to even start to now look at the future. And so I've sort of lost my ability to future plan, like, what are you doing in 2 years? Or what do you see your life like? I barely can see, even tomorrow or next week now here, because you have no idea how it's going to go. Strange.
It's kind of interesting what you just talked about the people being in survival mode, and you're talking about economic growth and development and things like that, and trying to get them to see different things. And I had somebody point this out to me at one point in time, is that they said I essentially you can't see it right now, but I'll have the faith for you, because you can't see what's on that next level. So if you're thinking of the hierarchy of needs, right, and they're in survival, so self-actualization is just eons away for them. Are you able to help kind of bring them up by that, like, because what's at each of those next levels? Have you been able to take that and say, hey, I've been on the top of the mountain. I know how to, I know what it's like at each of these?
Is
that just impossible?
Hard. It's so hard. It's challenging every bit. My background is I'm a cultural anthropologist, and from a psychology background, like you said. And so looking at human beings in this capacity, and knowing it's still it's so challenging, because if someone's hungry, like actually hungry and worried about how they're going to feed their family, like for real, not how we say it sometimes in the US, like actually hungry, and
Yeah.
it's very hard to get them to even sort of dream. I actually, a big part of the work I do here is I put on and put together workshops, and like today I was doing a help desk, we're helping people write their CVs or their resumes, as we call them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a workshop a few weeks ago of a women's empowerment workshop, and I called it Rise and Shine, and it was dream, plan, do. And so just trying to even start this idea of even dreaming, like dreaming about what you even dream about. And then I can help you create a plan so you can actually do it. But there's almost even a lack of dreaming, of even being able to think about it, because it's not possible. And so I really had fun crafting this workshop, trying to help them sort of visualize, what if time and money wasn't the issue, what would you be doing? What do you love? What do you enjoy? Because most people that are entrepreneurs here, it's not something that they dreamt about doing. It's just a skill that they may have. Like, I learned how to sew from my mom, so I make dresses. Or, my friend sells tomatoes, so now I sell tomatoes. It's not because they love tomatoes or love making dresses. And so I'm trying to get them to be more, at least, like, I feel like in America, we're so good at dreaming and thinking about the future and what do we see, and then we know how to make a plan and go for it. Like, it's actually not that hard when you do it. It is hard. It just takes hard work and pushing through fear and insecurity. But I'm just working at the base level right now to even get people to dream, to even.
Yeah. And I think we take that for granted in the United States, because I remember reading about this concept that said, America was based on dreamers, right? So if you think about the people that came to the United States, they were the 0.05% of, whatever, Italy or, England or wherever they came
Ireland,
from to come over here for the first time. It took enormous guts, right? So all of us, right? All of us being, aside from Native Americans, people being part of that, we're part of that stock, right? I mean, it's in our DNA, that said great great grandma or great great grandpa was the gutsiest person in our little town in Sicily, that had the guts to get on a boat, for how many days and come over here and not know where the hell they were going to go or what the hell they were going to do. And so we almost take it for granted because it's just in us.
This episode of the BLTnT Podcast is sponsored by Auxium, business IT and cybersecurity designed to outsmart chaos. Empowered by Juniper Networks. Automate your network with Juniper Networks and the Mist AI platform, the world's first AI-driven wired and wireless network.
It's so in us. And what's weird to be in a country like Namibia is, what used to be a German colony and then was taken over by South Africa and just recently gained their independence in 1990. And so it's a very, very new country, and a country that was been colonized and sort of in a very, and during apartheid, so very separate from blacks and whites. And so it's very challenging in my position being American, because actually America, they don't really know much about America here, and it's fine. It's like not very it's not that it's not interesting, but you go to other countries and they kind of know a lot, and so, but they know us to be very just so go for it. They think we're fearless. They think, and it was funny. I actually had a driver just the other day, and he asked me, it was so funny. He goes, "I've heard of this thing, and people say the American dream." He said, what does that actually mean? What does the American dream mean? And I thought it was such a cool question, because it made me even stop and think, what does it mean? And what does it mean to me? And I turned it back asking it like, well, what do you think it means? And he thought it meant that you come to America and just everything's golden and sparkly and perfect and easy. And I was like, not exactly. It goes back to our conversation, just that you can come from anything and make yourself made in America, where I'm in a place that it's very much about titles, education, family, what tribe you come from, where you were born. It's very hard to make your way into something new. Whereas in America, it's true. It doesn't matter where you came from, what kind of family, what kind of education. If you're willing to do the work, you can get there. Like, it's tough. But
right. It can be harder depending on where it can be hard.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be harder. I mean, if you're in America and you're born into poverty here, it certainly is harder. We can't, ignore that fact that it's harder to get certain places. But as you're comparing it to the rest of the world, they can't even fathom the dream, let alone have the opportunity. But maybe that's where they gave you. Is that why they gave you your tribal name of Nelau, which means to bring luck?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny because my name Corinne in where I live in the north, where they speak a Oshi Wambo language, is Oshi Quinyama, is that it's very difficult. Like Corinne doesn't exist. I'm called Karen, Connie, Karina, but it doesn't work. But a very beautiful blessing that you get here is you are baptized with your tribal name, and mine was Nelau, which means to bring luck. And it makes me feel so wonderful because no one calls me Corinne here. Everyone just calls me Nelau. And Zach and I are the only Americans in our town. So we kind of stand out and everyone knows us. And my husband's name is Tuhafini, which means to bring happiness. And I think that's pretty cool because we do feel like, talking to you is reminding me maybe I'm doing more impact than I think, because on a daily basis here, it doesn't feel that way. You feel like you're just trudging through the sand that I walk through every day.
Well, and we should probably mention, you even had to trudge through the sand to get to be able to shoot this today because you went to your office, which is a 20-minute walk from your. Yeah, so your office is a 20. Let's create some context here for everybody.
Okay.
So about daily life, the water, food, electricity, community. You've talked about some of these things, but literally, you don't have a car.
Correct.
You got to walk about 20 minutes to work.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, 25. Yeah.
Okay, and it's not always 70 and has a nice breeze, and you're not walking on. You're not walking on a regular road. You're walking through sand, correct?
Yep. Yes, correct.
So, I think about it. When you told me that a couple months ago when we were talking, I was thinking, I complained to my wife walking from the beach house, at the beach that we use, the beach house to the water, if one of the kids leaves something down there, because it's hard to walk through the sand. And it's like you're walking through sand for 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Every day.
Just to go to work.
No matter what you want to do.
Right?
Yes.
Well, and then today, today we were scheduled to get this going, and you sent me a message on WhatsApp and said, "Hey, I need another 10 minutes." And that was because there was no power at your office. So you had to walk back home to do this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And like you said, this is just daily life. There's not you didn't, start swearing and, getting all upset and honking your horn or whatever, because you don't have a horn, but, maybe you carry one. I can get you one of those handheld horns. It makes a different kind of noise, but,
I'm very familiar with that. Yes. Thank you.
You're more than welcome to tell that story if you like.
Oh, okay.
At the right point in time.
At the right moment, for sure. I think the most challenging thing, it's funny because it's amazing how quickly you adapt though. Like it doesn't even seem weird anymore to me. And for you to say that is so funny because you're right. It's just so normal life for me now. And And like to go to the grocery store is kind of a highlight, right? Because but the grocery store is even farther, but you have to decide what you're going to buy that day. And are we going to take a taxi? Sometimes we'll take a taxi back home with all of our groceries, but the taxis are kind of expensive. But then putting it into American concept, it's not actually. It's like actually probably 50 cents or something, but on a Peace Corps salary, it actually seems kind of expensive. So we're all screwed up now on our money, on everything.
That makes me want to ask the question on the money side of things. So the way that you're living, and this still will stay in line with the explaining about, what life is like there. Are you able to actually use your own money, or do you have to be on a stipend like what do you have to live according to a Peace Corps sort of thing?
Yeah,
sort of
it's a
budget?
great question because honestly, they would very much like you to live just on your Peace Corps stipend. So the way it works is the host organization. So we live in a town council house. So the town council, since that's who I work for, they provided our housing. And so my husband and I live in a town council house, which is pretty decent. Like I said, like we have our own bedroom, a bathroom with a shower, not, and electricity. It's nothing fancy, but it's nice. And
Okay.
My husband works for the Ministry of Health, and they provided all of our furniture. So all of our furniture, we have, a bed and a couple folding tables and folding chairs, but basic things. And then the Peace Corps, thank you, taxpayers, provides us a very small stipend that's for our food and transportation money, but it's very, very minimal. Let's say probably equivalent to about 200, maybe 250 US dollars a month each that my husband and I are having to live on. So it doesn't afford you really any freedom. So my husband and I do use a lot of our own money, our savings to travel on holidays, over Christmas. We get to explore the country. We feel so fortunate that we can then, travel. But again, it's a Peace Corps rule that you're not allowed to drive a vehicle. So that makes it almost impossible. And we take 10-hour bus rides. It's so brutal. So it almost makes the travel so frustrating, but you really appreciate the lodge when you get there.
Wow. So with your background, I mean, you guys are both mentally tough people, right? So I think that the thing that always comes up for me when I meet people doing interesting things or doing something that's challenging and even if it doesn't seem that grandiose of a thing is that you are uniquely qualified to be doing what you're doing and being in the position you're in and where you are right now in the world. And so, I think a lot of that came from obviously your backgrounds, right? Your husband with Zach doing the training that he does and everything like that. I mean, obviously a mentally tough person, you as well. And then teaching, to people to how to thrive in chaos. Right. And, you said something that I think it was, you're never going to be chaos proof, but you can be chaos ready. So thank God you've done all the hard work that you've done for all these years, because I don't know the average person. I don't know how they're surviving doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm not just blowing sunshine. I'm just like, I
need it today. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. Okay.
You forget how hard it is. And, I'm sitting here right now, like sweating my guts out. And mind you, it's going into winter time where I am, but, it's just, there's no niceties. There's no nice thing. Like everything becomes so sacred. And I love getting to reconnect with appreciation. And so that part has been really cool of a learning, and that I hope to keep passing on to people that are not, you don't have to go through this experience, but to really enjoy those small wins, to really enjoy the small moments, because that's actually all life is made up of, is what I'm figuring out. Because all my huge accomplishments, all the things I have, no one cares about here. No one cares at all. Like, it's weird to be so overly qualified for the job that I'm doing and be doing like such basic things. Like sometimes, literally I'm teaching people, how to use Word or PowerPoint on like Microsoft 97, right? I mean, it's like mind blowing what's happening. And you're just like, what happened, right? I used to work with top CEOs like you from around the world that are doing such crazy things. And now it's so simple. So you have to refocus on like the things that actually, what does matter? What does make you smile throughout the day? And for me, before, it was all about accomplishing what, like winning and doing great and making more money and just accomplishing. And now accomplishment.
That's funny you said that. That's funny you say that about the accomplishment things, because, I think it's always pointed out to us, that to focus on the little things, not the things that rust, right? Like things will rust, things will fall apart. But it's funny how you also tie in the accomplishments, right? And those are almost things that rust as well. And I never really thought about it like that until you just said it. Is that those tarnish and become nothing over time as well.
Or you may change like a total different culture or place in the world where none of those accomplishments have any weight or value, because there's no context to them, so they don't matter. If I had 100 herd of cattle, that would be impressive, but sure. I don't. And so I'm not very impressive here, right? Like, it's very interesting that things that are of value aren't the same value, but the deep things are. Like our relationships and your faith, your family, your health, like things that aren't, that we just talk about all the time in America, but we I think we gloss over it because it's so easy. Like, it's easy because all the things are good, right? And everyone's like, no, you need to work on being bored. Like, I just want to be bored. I'm like, you say that until it's your only option. Like, let me tell you about being bored. Like, it's not very fun, actually. Like, it's being bored if you have another option of like, doing something else. But if it's your only option, like it is for us, you are going to find things that start to become special or interesting. And it's been a weird thing. I can't imagine how it's going to feel even a year from now, right? I don't know.
Sure. So with what it feels like right now, let's pretend that you were back in a room full of CEOs, and what would you teach differently in your Thriving in Chaos workshop?
I think it would be more, I think I would still, like we've talked about before, like I have this, ACE model, like assessing, creating, and executing when things are crazy. And I would say I keep practicing that here because I'm very curious, does that still hold up? I mean, I'm a researcher, right? I want to know, does my framework work in any situation? And I think that I've come to that it does, but the speed is different. And so I'm creating this new relationship with perspective, like how much perspective really matters. And that I would teach more about us as leaders, connecting more with like looking through the lens that we're viewing the world through versus the way that everyone else is. And I know we talk about perspective, but I think I'm wanting to dig in more to this research sort of around perspective. How do you actually get better at taking other people's perspective? One that you don't have any connection to, because I have to do that every day. It's so challenging. And how do I share my perspective where I can bring you into my world in a world that doesn't relate, which is what I'm experiencing now. But that's what leaders deal with their employees, with their vendors, with all of those things. And so I really want to dig more into how do you bridge that gap when there's misunderstanding, and maybe we don't even know there's misunderstanding, which is what sometimes happens in my day-to-day life here, but there clearly is, because our perspective and our context are completely different. They could never be the same, no matter how much I share, no matter how much they share. How can we bridge it together? So I think it would be more about getting back on mission, getting back on like, what are we trying to accomplish, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to dig in more to that because I see it with you guys too. It's always been, we see things this way and we're like, why can't people just get it? Like, I feel that way every day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when you talk about going back to mission, I mean, I feel like the only thing that I can do to make my company better at this point, what I personally can contribute, is sharing the mission, sharing the vision, sharing the core values, and making sure that we're all as aligned as we can possibly be, and that I'm talking to people about their stories and what it means to them to align to that. Why do you come here every day? Right. I mean, at every chance I get, I thank our employees for choosing us. They choose us every day. Right. I mean, they can go anywhere. Right. And so, it's because they feel aligned to something. So I think for me, what I'm getting out of this is I got to do more of that. Cause it's, the only way that we get to know other people is to know their why and
yes,
what's driving them and what their perspective is. Right.
Yeah. And it's really interesting and really trying to, I guess, I don't even know if it's like understand it, but maybe see the value in it of why it's valuable to them. And so, because a lot of things here that I experience are so culturally diverse and, there's a lot of huge divides, even gender wise and things, and in my role. And it's very interesting to keep exploring that. And like I said, how am I perceived here versus the perception, that I think I'm being perceived as, or how am I perceiving my counterparts, my workmates and things. And so it's giving me a lot of ideas of how I could learn from this and build on it for how to help you guys, because I think it's all the same. We're still human beings, whether, but it's a challenge. That divide can be challenging when we don't even know it exists sometimes.
Is that really frustrating though, or even more frustrating there than it is here, would you say, for you? Because, here, if we have let's use that mission piece. If we have two people here in America who, the supervisor and the employee, however you want to say that, if we have the same language, we have at least some of the same, cultural understandings. And then we also understand the same American dream piece here too, right? I think most of us, even the stuck people, have to know that there's, even the stuck person here is not as stuck as a person there.
Yes.
Is that frustration ever get to you to the point where you want to spend the day in bed or anything like that?
Yes, every day. I will tell you, it's such, every day is a new sort of, I have to pump myself up because I sit through, if anyone ever complains about a staff meeting again, I will just tell you, this is no exaggeration. I, for real, sat through a 8.5-hour staff meeting with no breaks, nothing. Some people never even got up and went to the bathroom, and it's just, and nothing gets accomplished. And so, yes, it's so mind numbing sometimes where you have the answers, or you have something that could change this, or you've implemented a new tool, or you've tried to show something that would really change things for the better, and no one listens, or they forget, or this is the way we've always done it kind of mentality. So it's very similar, but I'm very challenged sometimes because I'm not in charge, and I'm used to being in charge, and I'm a female in a very different culture, and it's there's also issues with titles, right? I am a doctor, Dr. Corinne, and some of my colleagues are intimidated by that. Some like to use it. Like there's just a lot of those different challenges that come up. And yeah, I have to motivate myself, use my own framework, use my own motivation every day of like, okay, what's something I can be happy about? You know, my husband and I have a joke that neither of us can have a crummy day on the same day. Because if we're
It's just too much, right?
because you'll just sort of spiral into the abyss of negativity because it's really hard to grab onto some positives here, like it is sometimes. And so you find them in the smallest things, but I think it's a great tip for anyone who's married or, you know, coworkers. Like, you don't get to both jump on the hate train on the same day. Like, someone's got to stay off and try to remind you that it's good on the other side.
Yeah, right. I mean, otherwise misery loves company, and it's just nothing good is going to come from that. Let's talk a little bit about your framework and what you've been teaching here. Because I mean, I know not everybody watching this episode with you here is going to know who you are and what you've been doing. So could you give us kind of the, I don't know, call it the 10-minute crash course? Do you have a 10-minute version of your course that you can?
Yes, sure. You can watch my TED Talk.
Okay, there you go. Is that 14? Is that 14 minutes?
Yeah, no, and now it's Matt. We're in an era where that's too long. People don't have attention spans for that. It's got to be under 10 now.
Oh, are you serious? Is that true?
Yes, I'm serious. Yes, that's the new fad. But essentially, my work before as a cultural anthropologist was always about how to thrive in chaos, how to use chaos to your advantage. I never saw chaos as a negative, and how you use change and disruption as a catalyst for positive forward motion and momentum, and really getting into a relationship with chaos. So it becomes something that you work with. Now, in my experience of all these years of working mostly with leaders, is you guys are excellent at it. Like CEOs, executive teams, we thrive on it. We love change. We love to create disruptions, and the chaos is what fuels us, and it builds innovation in ways that make us really successful and innovative. And what I spend a lot of time with then is helping people get more into relationship with chaos so they can help others thrive in it. Like, you could help your teams thrive in it more, because my experiences is we were kind of seen as a little crazy, or like, you know, always trying to disrupt the boat and rock the boat as leaders. And so how could we get others to improve their relationship with chaos and have a better experience with it? So I just did a lot of coaching around navigating that as a relationship, like with how you're going to communicate with your team, providing more clarity, and using that psychological safety as a background of it all, that every human being needs to feel safe. And if you do not provide safety, you're always going to have these default reactions of the ABCs. If you remember, people are always going to go into either avoiding, blaming, and complaining. So when things change outside of your control, your default reaction as a human being is to avoid, blame, or complain. It's just a natural human response. And so I try to help us, one, recognize that happens, but then how do you very quickly move through that? How do you move into that ACE response, the assessing, the creating, the executing of a new plan? And so I think even just bringing the awareness around those ABCs is huge, that we have them, and that the chaos is created when you stay in them. And when you stay in avoiding, blaming, and complaining, that's when the chaos starts to happen. And so clarity is the only thing that helps provide people that safety that can move them out of avoiding, blaming, and complaining, because avoiding, blaming, and complaining actually creates clarity. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, avoiding, I know exactly what I'm avoiding. That's enough clarity for me to feel safe in the moment. Blaming is even better, because one, I can put it onto something else, which provides clarity. I can blame you, and it's off of me, which is even safer. And then complaining, you can see why complaining and why misery loves company and all those things, because look what that does. One, I know exactly what I'm complaining about. So that's clarity, makes me feel safe. But then if I can get others, my team, my tribe, to come together with me, I feel extra safe. And so that's sort of, understanding just that concept in itself helps have the awareness like, oh, I'm in the avoiding, blaming, or complaining right now. I mean, I was today when like the power was out, I was blaming, my life in Namibia, like just, that. And then you have to very quickly, it's how fast you can move through it. And so I have to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let me share with you a situation that on that avoiding, blaming, complaining. It's funny, after you had done your workshop, I called it the AABC, which was avoiding, blaming, and complaining, right? So the reminder to avoid doing those three things. But I was having a conversation with a teammate here just this past week, and I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything after that intro that you just did because you blamed and you complained. And when you did that, I was unable to listen to anything else because the accountability piece was gone.
Yes.
And so we need to reframe. I didn't get mad. I just said, we need to reframe this. Mm-hmm. I need you to come at it a different way without the accusation, the blaming, the complaining. So I changed the A out on you there, but I like it. It was like, and I realized that about myself. Is like, when did you shut down, Matt? You shut down as soon as you heard it as blaming others. And I always do the finger point. There's always three pointing back at you type of thing, totally, as the reminder. But it was so tough. How can we get better at that? Did I do that the right way, or is there a better way that I could go about that when I sense it?
If I'm honest, I mean, you got to let people feel what they feel for a minute, because it's real for him. And that's the toughest part. If you remember why he's doing it, is because there's something within him that didn't make him feel safe, that he felt that he had to either blame someone else because he didn't feel safe, that either he was going to be disappointing you or, which then could lead to eventually deep down, losing his job, living in the basement of his mom's house. Like, right. It goes all the way back to the survival. And so it's giving people, it's the hardest part for us. Like for me, 100%, and especially with my children, with my husband, and for us that are really, we love to just get it done, is to give people a minute to feel that discomfort, like really acknowledging him for a minute that was real for him. And essentially you kind of told him like, no, you shouldn't feel that way. Right. And it's like, but he did. And so it's like giving just a minute of and that's like in the ACE model, the assessing of it, but the assessing too and it's hard for people because we don't want to be like, come on, just put your pants on and get back to work. This is BS, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a minute of just like, whoa, yeah, I bet that really sucked. And not agreeing with it, but acknowledging the fear factor of it. Because it's coming from a place of actual fear of survival, deep down. And so if you can give people just a minute and just a microsecond of acknowledgement of like, wow, yeah, I bet that sucked. I bet that was really scary. And then it could be moving into like more of an assessment, like instead of it just, and trying to hear it through a sense of fear instead of lack of accountability, because that's the next step.
We could even add the words acknowledge, right? Yeah. So acknowledge before we then go into the assess, create, execute. So I think that's that's something I could certainly work on. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's hard. It is so hard. Like, and I'm not trying to use the on you, but it like actually is, even for me. I mean, especially because you can imagine the things here that people, I'm like, how is that real? Like, what? Because you can't make it up. You just can't make up some of the stuff that happens here. And I want to blame and complain every day. And my husband and I give ourselves, I think there's fairness and there's value in venting. And you have to allow a little space for venting and create a little bit of safety for that, but not living in it, right? And so we kind of give ourselves
because then that just becomes commiseration then. And
but also like you can't also bottle it all up and pretend it doesn't exist either. And so I think it's
Right.
everything's a balance and a fine line between that.
I'm writing a note.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking
I'm gonna use some of this.
Good. I'm so excited. That makes me. I'm like.
Well, I had notes from the last time we talked too. So yeah, no, I'm learning every time I'm talking to you.
Thank you.
So I think that goes then to the statement that you had made about the, shifting from a reacting to a responding. And so if I just continue on this example here, by reacting and snapping it off too early, we didn't allow the whole feeling to occur. By responding, we're saying, okay, I'm actually using that time to acknowledge and respond in to say, okay, this is coming from somewhere. That sucks. Like, that sucks that you feel like that. Right. And then dig in on that and find out what the deeper root is there. So I really see where that kind of ties in. You also, though, said something, and I don't remember what the words were, but it was like, behind every complaint is something. Do you remember what you said there?
Yeah. So behind every complaint is a commitment.
Okay. Can you explain?
And I know that sounds crazy, but if behind every complaint is actually a commitment. So I used to say, if you have think about what a complaint is really coming from. And if you live by, behind every complaint is a commitment, you're going to get very mindful of what you complain about, because we had a saying in my family: if you have a complaint, you have a project. Because think about it. If the complaint is worthy of your life, you're going to take action on it. And so that's where you can start to evaluate, is this something worthy of my life? Is this something that I really want to take on, that I'm going to take action on? Or am I just complaining about it? And so, because if the complaint is connected to a commitment, the story, I have an example that came from it. I used to have a woman in my neighborhood, and maybe I told you this story before, but I'll share it briefly. And she was that community complainer, always complaining about the drivers in our neighborhood, right? And we have those shared mailboxes that you walk to or you drive to. And I would try to avoid her. Like, I didn't want to go and see her at the mailbox because she was always complaining. Oh my God, I saw Tommy's son the other day. I think he was going 45, and always complaining about the drivers in our neighborhood. Well, we're at a community, barbecue pool party thing months and months later, and I see her walking into the pool party, and already I'm having there's, the community complainer, but she's walking in with her son. He's probably about, 6 years old. And she introduces me to her son, and her son is deaf. So all of a sudden I had this huge, oh my gosh.
The epiphany here, right?
Her complaint was not about the drivers in the neighborhood. But it was behind a commitment of safety for her son, right? Her fear was that her son wouldn't be safe. And so you see how it starts to shift. And us as leaders, I could have been a better leader in that by getting more curious about her complaint, because where was the complaint really coming from? Instead, I just ignored her. I would see other people join in with her, right? We see next door and all those things. People just love to get involved. But really, if we can dig in a little bit deeper, get curious about the complaints, not to solve them. We're not here to be the saviors and solvers of things. It's never about that. It's the awareness to find out, where's this coming from? Where's this default reaction of behavior coming from? And as leaders and as friends and partners, we can get a little bit more curious to be like, hey, what would make a difference for you right now? And so that could have been a great thing with your coworker, with your, in that conversation you were in, is be the bigger person. Let that noticing yourself that you went to a complaint or a blame of him not taking accountability, and you shut down, and now you were almost avoiding the conversation, to then getting curious, whoa, okay, what's actually going on here? I bet that really sucked. Whatever happened embarrassed him or made him feel incompetent or whatever. But hey, what could I do right now? Is there anything in this moment that would make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need right now?
Or asking, like you said, asking the questions to say, okay, same thing with your neighbor, getting to the bottom of what's at the root of this.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, the funny part of the story was later, once I figured all that out, and I was much younger then and very, I guess I've always liked helping, but, I got involved and we got, those signs put up in the neighborhood that have deaf
Sure.
child in the area and stuff. And it was really cool because it's more about awareness again. And I think, and the drivers were crazy in the neighborhood. That what she was saying wasn't untrue. It's just not the complete story. And I think that that's where we just have to, especially now with everything going on in the world, is just to slow down and just before we make these rash reactions, know that as a human, you're going to have them, but evaluate it just for a second and find out where could you get more curious. And honestly, the question like that I've even been using here now that I used to teach you guys always is like, what do you need right now? What would make a difference? Like, what do you need? What do you need? Not what do you want, but what do you need in this moment? Is there anything that could change this situation in like the next hour? Right. And that's what some of the stuff is we're having to work on here. But I think it's really useful to remind you guys back home because the pace of life is so fast and we just react so quickly that we forget to sort of pause for a minute and reevaluate.
Well, give me maybe one more. let me share this. And this keeps coming up. I think if somebody's watching all the podcasts, they're going to say, "Hey, you keep bringing this up. This is becoming a common thread." And I think it just goes back to human nature, though, right? I had talked about, a default to empathy. Like, wouldn't it be great if my default would be to be empathetic versus judgmental? I've heard. There's a fellow named Dr. Bill Crawford talks about life from the top of the mind, right?
Yeah.
There's others. Jay Reifenberry talks about your core four, your top four personal core values. Bob Holland, who we know, he leverages his own personal core values. And so when a stimulus comes in, they're running that through that filter of the top of the mind filter. They know that it goes to the reptilian brain first, but there's a squashing of it, filtering it back through the top of the mind before it comes out as a reaction, and comes off as a response. People are using it through their own their religious beliefs. Christianity. It's like, okay, put it through the lens of Jesus, right? So, what is maybe another tip that maybe that somebody could use? Because remember, not each of these resonates with everybody, but we all. The recurring theme is that we need to do this. It's obvious, right? Right there. I just gave you 4 experts who are talking about it, and we all know it ourselves too, right? That says, oh shit, if I would have just processed that for a minute longer or 30 seconds longer, I wouldn't have come off as such an asshole. I would have been effective. And so, what is your tip for that to run it through the filter? Is it take a breath? Is it count to 10? Is it, what is it for you? Do you have one?
Yeah. Well, the one I've been using here, because it's I'm dealing with my own, cultural bias and things here. But so the one I've been using here is, I think, from the 4 agreements, but I use the one, assume best intent, because everything that happens here, I'm always like, it almost comes off like it was intentionally wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't know how to describe it quite yet. I hope in the years this will all process and be more clear. But that's the one I've been using, is assume best intent, because what I've noticed is I don't. Every time something happens, I feel like someone's trying to take advantage of me, or, something kind of, So I've really been working on that one of assume best intent, and really going back to some of those basic core ones. It's always back to the basics. And so that's the one my husband and I joke with a lot. We always say, because you'll get an email or a WhatsApp message from a coworker that says something, and maybe it's a language barrier of I read it incorrectly. But my new one is like, all right, Corinne, assume best intent. And then, and it helps me at least be more open in the way I'm going to respond. And I'm not coming off already defensive or yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think Mel Robbins was talking about that in her book, The Let Them Theory. And
Yes.
she has her podcast. I think I heard that there with her as well. And that resonates, right?
Yeah.
That resonates big time. And so this is a great reinforcement of that. Because you have the choice of choosing, is the person doing this to attack me? Almost 99% chance that's not the case, right? There's something else behind it.
Right.
And your example of the person in the neighborhood, the positive intent was really there, right? It was, I want to keep my kids safe. And actually, when you found out about that, you wanted to keep her kids safe as well too. So, I mean,
Totally.
the intention was something that you could jump on the bandwagon with as well. So, okay. So assume positive intent, assume good intent. That's great. So we've got our ABCs, right? The avoiding, blaming, complaining. We've got the ACE model: assess, create, and execute. Reacting to responding. Behind every complaint is a commitment. We got a lot of stuff here. Now, is this stuff in your TEDx talk?
The TEDx talk is more about just your relationship with chaos, and the ABCs and the ACE response. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And then you have coming up. Well, I'm going to say coming up because we're shooting this in June. We're at the beginning of June. We're June 3rd here, June 3rd, 2025. We're shooting this. This might not get posted until sometime this summer. So just based on when this comes out, you are going to be speaking at a Vistage event. And I know people probably think I'm a broken record because I talk about Vistage a lot. The CEO
Vistage,
peer group. We love it. You're going to be speaking at the Climb event, which is a virtual event that I believe is open to everyone, whether they're a member or not. So I think others will be able to experience you there. What are you going to talk about? Give us a preview. Don't spill all the candy in the lobby here, but give us a preview here.
Wow. I kind of took some notes because I've been working on it because it will be my first. It's going to be a new. I guess Thriving in Chaos 2.0, right? Sort of a whole new keynote that I'll be doing, but it's definitely more of like uncertainty, how we're going to navigate like the power. It's called The Power of Perspective in Uncertain Times will be what the title of it is. So really digging into this idea more on perspective and living in a place where my perspective is completely shifted and how powerful perspective can be in the workplace as well. And so really like helping like kind of what CEOs can learn from this power of perspective and leaders and business owners, anyone really. So just kind of, it's going to be cool. Stay tuned.
That's great. I'm sensing that. So we're doing a series of the Summer of AI, right? And we're talking a lot about artificial intelligence. And I don't remember who it was, but one of the company CEOs of one of the large language models came out and basically just said, we are going to be going through some significant worldwide disruption, especially in the white collar world. In entry level jobs, especially in the white collar world, is going to be decimated by about 50% is his estimations. And so I always take things and like if I'm hearing two people disagree, right? And I say, okay, if I square root both of them, what does that message now look like? Well, it looks like you're both still crazy. So whatever. But in this particular message, right, even if I square root what he's saying, that's pretty impactful. He's predicting 10 and 20% unemployment. And, we have economists talking about, Great Depression coming in the 2030s. We've got kind of a lot going on here, right? We've got some geopolitical sort of, unrest, right? We've got some craziness happening there. We've got, AI and automation. We've got, economical factors that are, the monetary supply, et cetera. We've got a lot of these things kind of intersecting, in these next 5 years. And, I don't think your talk could be any more timely, right? Because we are in the uncertain times. I think the United States and just the world in general, we had a good long run, of real stability, even though we had some craziness, don't get me wrong, but you could do certain things, right? You could go to college and you could get a good job and you could do this and you could do that, buy a house, 2.5 kids, there was a rhythm. And I think that rhythm is about to be disrupted.
And do things like actually, yeah.
Well, even simply, we also had the ability where people could go, you could decide not to go to college. You could take a certain job, a factory job, and you could say, you know what, even with some overtime, I'm going to have a great living, right? And I can go on vacations and I can do these things. And so we're really into these uncertain times. So I think your talk is going to be, this 2.0 version of your talk is going to be really, really timely here. And I think we should all listen up.
Thanks. Yeah. Because we're still all human beings. We're still human, and the reactions, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what is going on, the behavioral reactions are exactly the same. And I'm witnessing it day in and day out here. And it's so fun to then transform it into a tool that can be helpful for people like you.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. So, usually I ask people as we're wrapping up, what are you reading or what are you focused on right now that maybe is helping to shape some of your thoughts? But as you're in the middle of Africa, maybe you're not doing that. I don't know.
No, that's all I do. It's all, we don't have TV or anything like that. So, and we don't, Wi-Fi is not the same here. So you have to buy it on credit. So you don't stream very often, gosh, just even doing this call is burning up my entire, Peace Corps data allowance for the month. But, so I read a lot actually. And what cracks me up is right now I'm stuck on Bill O'Reilly's Killing series. So I don't know if you've ever read, but I just finished Killing Jesus. So Killing Jesus, Killing Lincoln. I'm right now reading Lies and Legends of the Old West. Matt, I feel like I never went to school. I feel like I'm learning. It's so cool. And it's really trying to help me kind of on this idea of perspective. And they're just fascinating. So if anyone's ever interested in the way he writes about history and puts you into the story without a bias, right? And so, Killing of Jesus was the most incredible book I've honestly really ever read. So for anyone, no matter what your beliefs are, definitely Christians, you should definitely read it. But even if you're not, it's a beautifully historically told story of the life of Jesus, and it was incredible. And and my husband's been reading all the other ones, Killing of the Mob, Killing of the Killers, and so we're having our own little book club of that. So honestly, I'm and the one of the Old West, I'm just learning Americans' history, like Killing Kennedy. Like I said, I feel like I never went to school or paid attention because it's cool to relearn all of this American history from a different perspective, too, especially Killing Kennedy has been fascinating. So it's nothing like, about business or anything right now, because that's just not the space I'm in. But I love learning, and those have been really, really fun, honestly.
Well, great. Well, I think we've had a great chat here that people are going to really enjoy. So thank you for being with me here. And I can't wait to see you at the Climb event. And then I also can't wait to, have you back on for another catch up in a few months.
Oh, Matt, it would be great. It would be so good. And just thank you for this opportunity of allowing me to share some of these moments and my ability to reflect on it. I feel like it was a gift for me to remember why I was here too. And you're just so great and curious and authentic in the way that you ask questions that it really, I feel just like, wow, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm I'm perfectly designed and with the skill set to be here. And so I appreciate the reminder that I really needed.
Yeah.
You were a gift for me today. And
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I mean it. So, well, great. Well, let's wrap it up. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Okay. And as they would say in Oshiquinyama, we would say Oshilawete. Now,
Is that peace out, bitches? Is that what you just said?
I'm going to learn how to say that. Yeah. I was just like, see you later. Thanks. L's good. But I'll learn how to say peace out, bitches by next time.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Okay.